लेकिन नए साल का आगाज होते ही गैंग ने देवभूमि उत्तराखंड में अवंडर शुरू कर दिया है.
In the realm of digital communication, hate speech has found a breeding ground. But what strategies can citizens employ to monitor and combat this menace?
In 2007, the National Broadcasting Authority was set up by a set of established electronic media channels, which is television channels, to be a kind of a monitoring, standard setting body that became later the National Broadcasting Digital Statutory Authority.
Over the years, CJP has filed dozens of complaints to the NBDSA. In 2023 itself, 5 of our complaints received favorable orders from the NBDSA. 2 of them included fines for prominent anchors from News 18 and Aaj Tak. In February 2024, 4 complaints filed by activist Indrajit Ghorpade also received positive orders. Let's discuss the process of filing these complaints.
If a show is telecast on any electronic media channel, within 7 days you have to complain, wait for the broadcaster's response. If the response doesn't come, then you escalate the complaint to the NBDSA within 14 days. Then you wait for them to actually allocate time, and when the time finally comes for the hearing, they'll ask for written submissions, which is again a very succinct summary of a otherwise long complaint. And the complaint can be very, very elaborate to do because you have to actually go through that 25-minute or the 40-minute video, timestamp the controversial comments, translate them, compile them into a complaint, relate these comments to the offending sections of guidelines or law, put it together convincingly, refer to citations of the Supreme Court and other authorities, and send it to the NBDSA.
One of our complaints against Times Now Navbharat was for their hate-filled commentary during the news coverage of a dispute in Uttarakhand. In our complaint, we pointed out the contrast between the coverage of the issue between 2 news outlets of the same Times group. While a Times of India article shared opinions about the dangers of a possible Muslim exodus, programs aired by Times Now Navbharat had undertones of encouragement for violence against religious minorities. A few months later, we all witnessed an exodus of Muslim populations from places in Uttarakhand. Our complaints to the NBDSA are very detailed, citing legal provisions and the evolution of targeted stigma and slur.
A very important argument you need to make when you're making these complaints is to make the distinction between free speech and hate speech. Hate speech, in fact, is an incursion on another's freedoms. It's an abuse of freedom, if you like. You actually create an iniquitous situation for the targeted community, which is already vulnerable. You affect the right to life with dignity, the right to equality before the law of that section.
The Supreme Court of India, in several judgments, reflected on this distinction. In 2014, in Pravasi Bhalai Sangathan versus Union of India, the Supreme Court had defined hate speech as speech made in an effort to marginalize individuals based on group membership. The 2017 Law Commission report also highlighted the potential of hate speech to provoke genocide and ethnic cleansing of minorities. In another complaint against Times Now Navbharat for a program centered around the Gyanvapi mosque dispute, where the anchor used slurs against minorities, we argued that the entire tone of the program was a violation of the NBDSA principles like neutrality and impartiality.
So in this case, the jihad trope is used. Mazhar jihad, land jihad. This description fits in that it is hate speech and it's not free speech.
We also noted that the show was in violation of sections 153A, 153B and 505 of the Indian Penal Code.
We reiterated in both the complaints our prayers to remove the program, to apologize, to refrain from making such hate speech again. And if those channels are repeat offenders or if those anchors are repeat offenders, for the NBDSA to take appropriate steps. And finally, if they feel it is grave enough, the authority feels it's grave enough, to actually impose pecuniary penalty, which is a fine.
Even though this entire process is rigorous and time-consuming, CJP has kept at it, as we understand that the battle against hate requires a multifaceted approach. Let's learn to differentiate hate speech from free speech. Let's understand the tools that are at our disposal. Let's empower ourselves to create a safer and more harmonious digital environment. Join us in the fight against hate. Together, we can make a difference.